At a Missouri Walmart, a man in military-style clothing carrying tactical weapons walking into a store, of course, sending customers fleeing. ABC's Gio Benitez is here with more. And Gio, thankfully, there was this off-duty firefighter who was on the scene.
Yeah, thank goodness, Michael. Good morning. Yeah, that off-duty firefighter happened to be there. He was armed and was able to hold the suspect at gunpoint until police arrived. This with a nation on high alert as the FBI warns of possible copycats. This morning, another American town on edge. Watch as a young man donning body armor, military fatigues, and carrying an assault rifle approaches Missouri police with his hands in the air, eventually dropping to his knees, surrendering.
He certainly had the capability and the potential to harm people.
Police quickly detaining him. He was carrying more than 100 rounds of ammunition.
We're going to turn to Washington and a sign that Republican lawmakers might be willing to take up the fight over background checks. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell now says he would at least consider the idea, but not until after Congress comes back from its summer vacation. Kira Phillips is at the White House with the latest. And Kira, the president says he's for background checks now, but the big question is whether he'll stick to the support this time.
Right, and you emphasize the word might. The president has waffled on this before, Cecilia, but now he is coming out pretty strong, saying that he wants to keep guns out of the hands of, quote, sick people. So now he is considering tightening those loopholes in background checks. So will he do something this time as this gun control debate remains incredibly divisive? Here's the good news this morning. There are new signs that lawmakers may be willing to meet in the middle.
This was Colonel Roy Knight Jr.'s final flight, a trip home to Texas after more than a half century. The Air Force pilot shot down in Laos in 1967 while fighting during the Vietnam War. First declared missing, then killed in action, his remains were discovered and identified earlier this year.
We had pretty much given up any hope that this would ever happen, and we're absolutely amazed at how this came to pass.
Colonel Knight served the country for 20 years at Air Force bases in Asia and here in the U.S. Marrying his wife Patricia in the Philippines, they raised 3 children together. In 1967, Knight said goodbye to Brian at Dallas's Love Field. It would be the last time the 5-year-old would see his father alive. On Thursday, that little boy, now a pilot himself for Southwest Airlines, flew his father home to the very same airport. The bustling terminal falling silent, hundreds of travelers watching the moving and sacred moment unfold. Outside, airport workers standing at attention in a gesture of respect. The colonel's family, including his sister June, on the tarmac to receive his flag-draped casket. Son Roy reaching out to his dad.
One of the state's most notorious criminals, a triple murderer and cop killer, will be free to walk the streets again in less than 3 weeks. The state government has already stopped the release of Berwyn Rees once. Now, the minister is scrambling to find a legal loophole to keep the ageing killer behind bars.
Even after 4 decades, the impact of Berwyn Rees's callous murders hasn't faded.
It was the anniversary on Monday, 42 years that my father was murdered, so it's been a really hard week. And now this, so it's not a day goes by I don't think about it.
In 1977, Rees shot Bondi Junction gun shop owner Raymond James and customer Christopher Greenfield at close range. 3 years later, he murdered policeman Sergeant Keith Hayden to avoid being caught. After 39 years in jail, now aged 69, Rees has been granted parole.
Russia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs summoned a senior U.S. diplomat after accusing the U.S. State Department of meddling in the country's internal affairs. Now, the U.S. Embassy in Russia published a travel warning earlier that contained a map showing the route of an unauthorized anti-government protest ahead of the August the 3rd rally that took place in Moscow. Now, the publication, which also appeared on its its Twitter feed contained details of the protest, including the time it will take place, also listing the streets affected, and also there was a picture of a map. However, usually travel warnings do not contain specific locations and moreover maps of any sort.
The Home Office have just confirmed to us that this search and rescue operation started at about 4 a.m. this morning, that they intercepted 4 boats carrying 30 people in all, as you said. Now that included 27 men, a woman and 2 children. The rescue operation lasted about 3 hours. These people were on 4 small boats. Sky sources that they looked more like canoes than anything more solid, and as you say, a very dangerous and risky journey to undertake. It was a border force cutter and another patrol vessel which managed to bring these people safely to shore, where they were medically checked over, and now they have all been put through to an immigration centre where they will be interviewed in due course.
And a strict curfew keeping residents of India-controlled Kashmir in their homes has been eased today. The mostly Muslim region has been under unprecedented security lockdown since India's government announced it was revoking Kashmir's special status.
Well, in Indian-controlled Kashmir, some restrictions were eased today, but they certainly have not been lifted. They were eased today for Friday prayers leading up to Eid, but they were still somewhat restricted. People weren't able to congregate in large groups. They were able to go to local mosques, but not to the large mosques, particularly in the capital city, or the summer capital city of Srinagar. So still seeing the curfew situation, still seeing elements of the communications blackout in parts of Indian-controlled Kashmir right now. A lot of questions as to when this will be lifted, if it will be lifted. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has said that gradually this area will be, regular services will be restored to the area.
Pro-democracy protests that have gripped Hong Kong streets for the past 2 months switched today to the territory's main airport. Hundreds of people are holding a mass sit-in there. Charles McDermott joins me now from Hong Kong. Charles, let's talk about what those protesters occupying the airport right now want.
Well, you're right. It is a shift in tactics, and the airport is, well, it's a strong move, really. It's a high-profile target. It's a soft target. They know that the police really can't do anything without giving the city a black eye. You asked about what they want. First of all, they were very clear this is a peaceful protest. They were going to make it peaceful, and what they've done is they've got banners, slogans, placards in dozens of languages, and they're greeting people to raise awareness about why they're out there. They started out against an extradition bill, but it's become kind of a catch-all. An anti-government movement is what it is.
Illegal armed groups have forced 40,000 people to flee their homes in Colombia's northern Catatumbo region, on the border with Venezuela. These groups are fighting for control over drug trafficking routes, more than 2 years after Colombia signed a peace agreement with the FARC. When the guerrilla group disbanded, armed groups moved in to fill the gap. Human Rights Watch says that the situation has descended into outright war in the region.
In and outside Colombia, it's likely that there is an impression that with the peace deal, with the signing of the agreements, the situation has been resolved and the country is at peace. The country is at war in Catatumbo.
The Human Rights Watch report says that armed groups are murdering community leaders and recruiting children as soldiers.